In 2007, the TV show The Big Bang Theory aired on CBS, a show about extremely intelligent physicists who lack the social skills needed to develop friends or girlfriends. It made waves within the neurodivergent community with its portrayal of its characters. Sheldon Cooper, arguably the most intelligent of the physicist characters, drew much of the attention as most fans believe he has autism due to his rather monotone voice, his inability to understand social cues, his need for a very precise level of order and routine, and his lack of knowledge regarding the method for developing meaningful relationships outside of himself. Despite these very well-known traits of autism, the creators of the show continuously insist that Sheldon is not in fact autistic. The whys are hotly debated, but my personal theory is that the creators want to avoid people thinking that the characters in the show are making fun of autistic traits when they make fun of Sheldon. It is, after all, a running joke in the show that everyone thinks Sheldon is crazy, to which he responds by saying that he's not crazy, his mother had him tested. The creators may also be trying to avoid perpetuating the idea that autistic people are inherently selfish, self-centered, and frankly, jerks. For years, The Big Bang Theory has been the butt of a joke within the autism community when it came to autism representation. That is, until Atypical. A TV show starring Jennifer Jason Leigh and Keir Gilchrist tells the story of a family dealing with their oldest son, Sam, as he tries to find his autonomy and independence as an autistic person. Atypical aimed to shed light on the difficulties faced by autistic people in our society when developing relationships and friendships, which is a great concept that would really be fun to explore. If they didn't make autism seem inherently abusive, that is. Oh no, Ricky doesn't like Atypical? That is so shocking. Can you hear how shocked I am? It really shouldn't come as a shock to anyone that I'm not fond of Atypical, considering many members of the autism community have stated that they don't feel the show represents them. Especially the first season, which, being fair and honest, is the worst of the entire 4-season run. But if you're one of the minorities among autistic people that does relate to Atypical, I'm not here to revoke your autism card. My aim is merely to explain the many different reasons that the show frustrates me, since it portrays autistic people and their families in a negative light. So before we get into the reasons why Atypical is bad, actually, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Apparently like 60 to 80% of the people who are watching me don't subscribe. Really? Really, Becky? You're gonna watch and you're not going to subscribe? My name is Becky. So be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. And now, let's get into Atypical and... Whoops, almost forgot my wine! Please kill me. At the risk of repeating myself, I could say, again, how autistic characters should only be played by autistic people. I could do that, and so I shall. Autistic characters should be played by autistic actors only, and Atypical is a prime example as to why. I will be fair and admit that Keir Gilchrist's performance as Sam is not the worst autistic performance ever. That still goes to music in the film Music. And I will acknowledge that Gilchrist's autism research was primarily focused on interactions with multiple autistic people in his personal life, as opposed to, just watching some videos or something. Thanks, Maddie. You can see that his performance is not coming from a place of disrespect, which is genuinely appreciated. But he's not autistic, and you can tell, so his performance doesn't feel authentic. This rings especially true in the show's second season when autistic actors are brought in to form an autism support group. Every actor within Sam's autism support group is an actual autistic performer, and when Gilchrist acts alongside them, it highlights the inauthenticity of his performance. When the autistic actors speak and emote, it's obvious that they're not performing autism, they're living it authentically. Now, before you tell me that acting is about acting, let me be the most pretentious person in the room with the acting degree that I spent way too much money on and tell you that acting is about living truthfully in imaginary circumstances. The autistic actors in Atypical are doing just that. They're still acting, they're just doing it more authentically than the non-autistic performers. That's what Keir's performance lacks, authenticity. And while it's commendable that the show hired actual autistic actors eventually, a part of me wonders if the show may have been better received if they had gone the extra mile or done the bare minimum, as some autistic actors, myself, have put it, and cast an autistic actor to play the lead autistic character in the first sharking place. But maybe it still wouldn't have been enough, considering... It should be no surprise that the Autism and Atypical isn't written that well, considering the consultant on the show also wasn't an autistic person, but a special education specialist. Does that title sound redundant? I think it sounds redundant. Not to diminish the work done by Michelle Dean, the aforementioned special education specialist, she does have a degree in special education, and I'm sure she has a very well-rounded, knowledgeable base of what autism looks like. Given that she's not autistic herself, though, her knowledge is from books and other sources, and it will never match the authentic lived experience needed to tell a show authentically through the lens of an autistic person. This is why scenes where Sam discusses the ways in which he feels ostracized by his peers falls flat instead of striking the proper emotional chords. Though it seems that the show was trying to help non-autistic audiences understand what it's like to be autistic, the lack of actual autistic people being included both in front and behind the camera creates the awkward scenario of a bunch of non-autistic people trying to explain what it's like to be autistic while not being autistic themselves. Do you see how that just doesn't make sense?
How do you know Michelle Dean is not autistic? It's not polite to just assume that she's neurotypical.
Well, it's also not okay to just assume that she is autistic, and either way, she hasn't publicly identified as being autistic, even while acting as the autism consultant on a show about an autistic person. So just like we never theorize about celebrities being autistic, we're not going to theorize that she's autistic either. And even if she was autistic, the statement still stands that the Autism and Atypical is not written well because it plays into multiple harmful stereotypes and in many ways makes autism seem downright dangerous. But despite this being the perfect transition point to that topic, we're going to touch on a different one first. Okay, this may be a little blasphemous in the autism community, considering there's a running theme about autism moms being self-absorbed, kind of horrible people that turn their child's autism into being about them. I'm not going to pretend that there aren't moms like that, but I will say that this idea about autism moms is largely a way in which misogyny seeps into the autism community. The expectation is that autism moms must be 100% perfect all the time while raising a child who has a disorder with which the mom probably isn't familiar. As non-autism moms don't have this expectation levied on them in the same way, I do think that many members of the autistic community are overly critical of autism moms. However, Atypical does not make the running theme about autism moms any easier to defend because Elsa, Sam's mom, is legitimately awful. In the first season, Elsa has an affair with a bartender, which causes tension throughout the rest of the series between her and her husband Doug. The show tries to justify Elsa's affair by saying it was a mistake resulting from her cracking under the pressure of being a perfect mother and doing everything herself. And this would be a somewhat understandable narrative if the show didn't repeatedly show Elsa's family constantly doing their best to take the pressure off her and help take care of Sam. Doug admits in the first episode that he hasn't been there enough for Sam, and he's actively trying to be a better father. Casey, Sam's sister, is more than willing to help Sam socializing, and Sam sees a therapist once a week. Elsa doesn't have to do everything on her own, so trying to blame the affair on her cracking under pressure is ridiculous. She made a choice, and that choice hurt her family, plain and simple. Even pushing the affair aside, Elsa is extremely controlling of Sam in a really weird way. Like, somehow it irritates her that Sam wants to date or change his wardrobe. It irritates her when he listens to his therapist, which, bro, why do you pay for a therapist if you don't want Sam to actually listen to her? The way Atypical portrays Elsa is not in a good light, which makes me sad because I do feel like it only further adds to the great divide between autistic people and the moms of autistic people. But wait! There's more crap parenting right around the corner because Sam has a lot of bad behavior for which Doug never properly calls him out. In fact, whenever Sam does do something awful, Doug frequently makes it seem as though Sam is somehow the victim. Take, for example, this scene in which Doug confronts Julia, Sam's therapist, for yelling at Sam. Sam has been drastically inappropriate with Julia, and instead of Doug holding Sam accountable for the things that he's done to make Julia feel unsafe, like breaking into her house while she was gone and leaving a chocolate strawberry, something Doug helped Sam do, Doug instead holds Julia accountable for hurting Sam's feelings after his confession of love. What? No, Doug, just because Julia is a therapist does not mean that she has to be kind to someone who literally broke into her house. Seriously, the conversation between Doug and Julia basically goes like this. You hurt my son's feelings. He stalked me and broke into my house, which you helped him cover up. But you hurt my son's feelings, though. Doug, seriously, you're lucky that Julia doesn't press charges against you and Sam, since you both literally broke into her house. I know I keep saying that and my editor doesn't want me to sound like a broken record, but there's really no other way to say that they broke into Julia's house. And it astounds me that Doug thought that was an okay thing to do and that he also helped Sam do it. It's no wonder that Sam is such a danger to women. Oh, which brings us to that earlier topic. Fuck it, that's not enough. Sam's sole desire throughout the first season of the show is to get a girlfriend, which I really don't understand because from the way he treats women, he neither particularly likes nor respects them. Within the first season alone, Sam pushes a girl to the ground, breaks into his therapist's house, yep, I said it again, locks his girlfriend in a closet because she annoyed him, pulls a girl's hair because she was standing too close to him, and sexually harasses his sister and her friend by showing them a drawing of naked yitties. What especially irritates me about all these incidents is that the show, much like Doug, somehow frames Sam as a victim in these scenarios, despite most of what he's doing being literally classified as criminal. The show uses Sam's autism as an excuse for his abusive behavior, which is extremely extremely aggravating, because when we excuse that sort of bad behavior, the people that are most at risk for being harmed by it are other autistic people just due to proximity. What's even worse is that we never see Sam apologize for any of the harm he causes. The show continues to act as though poor Sam's autism causes him to hurt people so he can't help himself. Heck, even after assaulting a woman at sister's track meet, he immediately is rewarded with a churro. So nice to see how seriously his family takes his violent behavior. This is yet another way in which you can tell that this show was not written from the perspective of an actual autistic person. I have never hit people during meltdowns, though I've said some things that I regret, and I always feel bad after, and I apologize, no matter how awkward the conversation may be. And why do I do this? Because I know that hurting people is wrong, and even if I hurt someone unintentionally, I still feel bad about it and continually beat myself up about it. Mentally, not physically, for the next 20 or 30 years. Sam, on the other hand, never seems to feel bad at all when he hurts someone. Except for the one time that his ex-girlfriend murders a stuffed penguin on his lawn because he broke up with her. That's literally the only thing we ever see Sam actually feel bad for, and it's a stuffed penguin. If you notice, most of the examples I've given during this video do come from the first season and not the last 3, but there's a reason for that. After receiving a huge amount of backlash over the first season from the autistic community, the show did hire an autistic consultant to help with the creative process. And I won't lie, the show did improve afterwards. And it introduced some things that I actually do like. But before we get into those, it is time for a meme break and a word from our sponsors. All of these memes were sent to me by our Patreon, so if you want to see your meme reacted to in a video, be sure to join our Patreon. Link is in the bio. I could get so much done if I just had the time. Alright, you called my bluff. I hate how true this is. In Star Wars Attack of the Clone, Owen Lars tells his wife he will paint the ceiling tomorrow. 22 years later, in A New Hope, he still hasn't painted it. That is men. That is men to a T, okay? Just saying. Achieve goal, daydream it. Me. A large group of people is called a no thanks. Literally, I went to a new synagogue just this weekend, and the rabbis were like, hey, if you're new to this synagogue, please come and introduce yourselves. We want to meet you. And I left. I just left. I was like, no, I can't handle this pressure. And now, a word from our sponsors. Hello, and welcome to the Ribera Bonbon channel. We asked a whole bunch of large companies if they would like to sponsor us in our videos. None of them said yes. So instead, we are sponsored by the amazing members of our Patreon. These amazing people are the reasons why we can get these videos to you in a timely manner. Just not when I've gone on vacation for a couple of weeks and then James got really busy, and we will get timely. We are proud to be sponsored by the members of our Patreon, who are just a wonderful people. We have built a really strong community, so if you want to join that strong community and become one of our sponsors, please take a look at the description down below. And we come back to the video. As I said before, the show did improve after the first season and introduced some things that I actually really like, such as Atypical did hire some autistic performers starting in season 2. Given the amount of blatant discrimination that I have seen towards my fellow autistic actors within the industry, I consider it a win anytime an autistic person appears on the screen, no matter how small the part is. Though the show did still choose to go with more stereotypically presenting autistic people, which kind of reinforces the idea that there's only one way to be autistic. But nope, I'm focusing on the good. Season 2 really deals with the fact that Elsa had an affair. The show takes their time dealing with it. They don't just make it simple, and in fact, her and Doug have some really tough conversations about it. She doesn't get off easy, she doesn't let herself off easy, and it works. It makes me actually happy when Doug and Elsa reconcile in the 3rd season. Just all of Sahid. Sahid, Sam's best friend. Does he have his slightly sexist views of the world? Yes, absolutely. But does he also unapologetically allow Sam to be himself without questioning him at all? Also, yes. When it comes to being an autism ally, Sahid is one, unequivocally and without question. I would die for Sahid in a heartbeat. Okay, Casey is actually pretty consistently well handled throughout the show. There are certain parts that lean a little into ableism, like how her parents center her life around Sam, but I wouldn't say that that's a problem with Casey as much as it is... But I wouldn't consider that a problem with Casey as much as it is a problem with the parents putting so much pressure on her. It's actually the least ableist version of the glass sibling trope I've ever seen.
Can I have some blankets?
No.
Casey never holds Sam's autism responsible for her parents not paying attention to her. She only ever holds her parents responsible, and I love that. Plus, we love the gays. In season 2, there's a scene where Sam has an elopement in the middle of the night and is stopped by the police. And for those people not in the know, an elopement in this case refers to when an autistic person gets overstimulated and just kind of wanders off. It's not referring to marriage in secret or otherwise, though I can understand why some people, my script editor, might get confused and wonder why 3 a.m. marriages are so common for autistic people and why the police often get involved.
Always a child bridesmaid and never a child bride. Go.
Anyway, Sam's elopement scene where he wanders off from his overstimulation is handled well and realistically. This kind of situation can and does happen to autistic people. Heck, it's even happened to me at one point. And when it does happen, it's legitimately scary and hard to articulate because it often happens during times of verbal shutdown where we're not able to articulate and explain what we're doing and where we're going so late at night. This scene was well done and I liked it. When it comes to Atypical, as much as it does occasionally get things right about autism, it gets so many things wrong, especially in the first season. In my opinion, Atypical is another show that had its time and its place. While it was still ableist and not good in autism representation, can't stress that enough, it was still a huge step forward in getting autism recognized in mainstream media by non-autistic people. Atypical's time came and went, and for those who watched the show and think of it as their first step into understanding autism, I'm genuinely glad that you're a part of the community. And if you like Atypical as a show, that's okay. I get it. You're allowed to like things, even if I don't think they're very good. When it comes to the many mistakes of Atypical, however, it's important to acknowledge that those mistakes are there. That way we can create better art in the future, which honestly has been done. I don't think that mainstream audiences would have been ready for shows like Everything's Gonna Be Okay without Atypical starting the conversation. Or short films like A Simple Date, which is also about an autistic person finding love and is shameless self-promotion on my part. Atypical had its time and its purpose, but we've moved on as a society, and I can't wait to see the next projects that come. Today's shout out goes to Mike Tripodi, who has been a member of our Patreon for 7 months. Mike, we are so genuinely thankful for you, your patronage, and everything that you have done. People like you are what makes these videos possible. We definitely could not do it without the support of all of our patron members, and we are just so happy that you are here. If you want to be a part of the next Patreon shout out, be sure to check the link in our bio for more information. Until then, we'll see you in the next video. Bye!